This song has so much meaning to me at the present because if you look around of the things that are going on in the United States and around the world, I mean, you have the COVID-19, you have turmoil in Minnesota, you have turmoil in Florida, you got people that are rising up all over the world and all over the United States like never before. It makes, finally people are seeing what people of color have been going through for a long time. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, this is new. It's nothing new. What's new about it is social media. What's new about it is cell phones that you have the camera on that every time it happens, you got somebody that can record, this is what we're going through. But you have to understand, we've been going through that. It's just that you didn't have a platform like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Zoom, and all that. There was not a platform to say, here it is. It's like now you feel a need to prove yourself, but guess what? Now people have the proof. And I don't condone what people is doing. I try to stay in the middle and say, that's your right to protest. But I would say this, and I heard it loud and clear. I want to do my protesting at the ballot box, on the local level, on the state level, and on the national level. That's the best way to make your voices heard. I don't think, to me, I personally don't think that basically burning down your own community, tearing up your own stores, tearing up your own neighborhood is going to do any good. Because my father and my mother come up in the 50s and the 60s and they fought for my right to be free. They fought for my right to be where I am today. So when I listen to the song, Where Are We Going? And I look at it, it's written for the time. It's right now. Where are we going? It's like we are at a crossroads now where America, we have a choice. And I think that people are really, really focused on, you know what, we are going to make that choice this time with our head and our heart and not with our eyes. COVID-19 it's not only changed the world, it's changed the United States. I mean, you look at people who said, I would never go in a food line. I would never stand at a homeless shelter to get food or to put shelter over my heads. And now you see people who were down in the homeless, who were down in people that didn't have much, who were down in people that were down and out. And you see these same people standing in a line crying and said, I never thought it could be me. But then again, you are the very one that basically looked down on people who didn't have as much as you did. You were driving a nice car, you were doing good, and as soon as they take it all away, you became just like them. So when I look at it, I look at people are standing in line, and it's like everybody's the same. Everybody got the same problem, everybody got the same need now. You on the same level as that person that you would drive by and wouldn't give a drink to, wouldn't give a glass of water to, wouldn't say hey to. And now look at the position that you're in. Honestly, I don't miss being on the road. I miss the traveling and seeing people and meeting people from around the world more than anything. Um, the thrill of going to a different city, meeting different people from different countries, learning different cultures, that's what I miss the most. Being on stage it was a great thing. It was a joy. Because regardless of what, when I get on stage, I give everything I got and some. It is in my heart and my soul when I go on stage. Leave everything you got up there. Therefore, after that show, people might say, I didn't like his hat, I didn't like the songs he sang, I didn't like the clothes he wore, but you know what? He performed. He gave his all. He put on a show. That's the thing that I want to be most remembered for when I'm on stage. Because a person that takes the time out to come and see me and to hear me, I want to be able to touch a person, whether it make you laugh, whether it make you cry, whether it make you think about life. I hope something that I do while I'm on stage will give you a better perspective on something positive in life. Everywhere around the world, they're coming to America. Every time the flag unfurls, they're coming to America. I know this much is true. Well, I know that make my wish come true before this night is gone, and let the music play as long. 'Cause today my world slipped away. Can't imagine anything can't imagine anything the two of us can do. Years through all the good and bad, I know how much we had, and I'm so glad I stayed right here with you. Through the years, it's always been okay. I love the life we made. I'm so glad you stayed right here with me. I love the life we made, and as long as you stay, I'll stay with you. A lot of times we forget those things in life that's so precious to us, so dear to us. Every time I look at my lovely daughter, it reminds me of her. Coming out of the studio and she was there. Or just coming off the stage from the concert knowing that you had somebody there. There's never a feeling, and I love you. Through the years, through all the good and bad, I know how much we had. You know, my mother and father was my hero. My mother and father was my hero. Because see, my mother worked 3-4 jobs, mother worked. We always had breakfast, lunch, and supper. We ate on Sunday nights as a family. We ate on Wednesdays as a family. You know, being from the South, and if you're from North Carolina, everybody know what I'm talking about. You went to church on Sunday. You were respectful to elders. You were respectful to people. That's just the way we were raised. There is no story to tell here. There is no story to tell of not eating, not having shoes on my feet, not having a winter coat, not having food in the refrigerator. There is no story to tell. So what I looked up to as I got older, I realized out of liberation, because I used to have fairs and They had talent shows and public speaking here and there. So I always joined the talent show, and on the educational side, I always joined the public speaking. And my first time around, I won the talent show, and I did a speech, and I won by default because wasn't nobody there. And I had a pretty decent speech here and there, and I never will forget. I read it to my sister-in-law, and she said, "That's nice and that's good here and there." And so next year, I said, I want to be able to make it all the way to state. I want to be the state champion for public speaking in my 4-H club, represent my city. And so I used to write speeches, and I used to look up to my sister-in-law. Her name was Sylvia Rivas Norman. And I looked up to her so much because of what she was. She was an engineer for DuPont at the time. And I would write a speech, and I would let her critique it, and I would go down at that point in time, and basically we would sit back and we would talk about it here and there, and she would make me read it over and over and over again. And she used to say, "Do you feel what you're saying?" And I used to say, "I think." And she said, "Don't think about it, feel it down here." And she used to help me write my speeches and correct them, and I used to read them over and over again. And she said, "You have a demand in your voice. When you speak, it's like you got something to say and people listen." So that particular year, I won the county, and I won the state, and then I won the national 4-H public speaking award. And I did that like 3 times in a row. And she was always an inspiration. And you know, we all was into music back then, and she was married to my older brother, who was my biggest inspiration in music. But what little time I got to talk to Siri, she just always used to say, "You know what, you a big fish in a little pond." You know, because I was basically I was searching for something in my life. Like every teenager and every person that's growing up. I'm 17 years old, didn't know what I wanted to do, had just finished high school, was taking local courses and correspondence courses here and there. And boom, and she was saying that Bavard is too small, and that's the town I was from. And she used to tell me and used to encourage me so much, "Don't be a big fish in a pond, be a big fish in a big pond." Sylvia was my hero, my mentor, my inspiration. The words that she said to me made so much sense at the point in time in my life, because I was from a small town to whereas you had very little opportunities and little chances to move ahead. And I never forget a couple of weeks before I called my sister on the West Coast to tell her I want to come out there and stay. Sylvia had told me that you have so much room to grow, but you got to take it away from here. Take the good word past where you found it. You got a voice. You speak with demand. You got personality. Take your talents and see who you really are. And it was so funny, she said, "You would never know who you really are until you challenge yourself at what you can be." And it made so much sense at the time, and that was my inspiration. That was that one voice that made me pick up the phone to say, "It's time to go." And at first I was scared, and I could call back, I think, 3 or 4 times to her when I got to California, because everything was moving so fast. And I never will forget those words that she said. "Remember, knew know when you knew." So that means you can go back to school and learn the whole entire story of life, because everything is new to you, which means it's an opportunity. And I took those opportunities. And every time I go on stage and every time I reflect sometimes, I look back, and the joy as well as the sadness that come in my heart because she's no longer with us. But I always remind myself, don't forget where you came from, because you can always go back there. I look at the blessings that have been restored in life. I look at all the things that I've been doing. I've been around the world. I've been on many stages. I've been with some of the top lawyers, some of the top governors. I've sat at the table with presidents. And then I look at it and I'm going like, what would have happened if I would have stayed put? And then that voice, and I always know it's her voice. You would have been a big fish in a little pond, doing the same thing over and over again and missing out on so much of life.